Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. So today I have a special guest. I have Claudia Hofmans. She's a Dutch wealth and mindset coach. She helps her clients feel supported and loved by money as they take the practical steps to being financially free. She helps them plan what those steps are regarding their savings, investing, and spending habits. And she has a burning desire to help others who want more money and freedom to be wealthy as fuck and dare to go after what they want. So I love this. Money might like my background with money is like I've had to work on my money mindset because of my upbringing, which I'm sure you will get into. So like money mindset is like one of my favorite topics to talk about. So I'm super excited. And also Claudia and I actually were just in like a 6-week mastermind course thing together. So that was really fun. So that's how we met. So go ahead, introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your story.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. I love this and I love talking about this. So my story, I am 25, living in Amsterdam. But until I think it was October 2022, I still had a full-time employment in a very big company in financial advisory. And I knew for a while, I think it was about a year, that this was not it, that I wanted to do more. And at the same time, I didn't dare to really get clear on what more looked like and what it was that I wanted. And I think it's now been 2 years that I really started working on my money mindset. And as you already mentioned, our money mindset is formed from the moment that we understand what money is, basically. And even before that, it is how our parents are with money, how our environment deals with money, what we see on TV, what we see everywhere around us. It was quite a shocker to realize that I didn't have a really good relationship with money. And that when I started unraveling this and unpacking this, I made some really big changes in my life. For me, it really has it basically supported me in the way that I felt comfortable and confident enough to go for what I wanted, which was to start my own business, to help other women, but also men, to grow their wealth, to create more wealth, because it is so easy to basically, rich people get richer, or that men have more wealth, and basically the old picture of a white guy at the top of a company, or head of a company, or investor or whatever. And I just really, that bugged me. I was like, no, where are all the people that are working really hard, that are loving what they do, but for example, they're in healthcare, they don't really have that affinity with money, they don't have that interest with money, and where are they left? Are they just supposed to kind of, make ends meet, or just feel like there's never enough, just because they don't have that interest in finance and in business? That's really where I want to make a difference, where I want to step in and help people shift their perspective on money and how money works for them. Because in the end, money wants to support us. It wants to love us and wants to be there for us. So I'm really focused on combining all this like mindset and feeling and that level with the practical steps to, how to start investing, how to keep kind of a track on your spending habits and your savings, and have those goals in place, in combination with the mindset and the feels.
Yeah, I love this because it's like one of the programs that I like grew up under was like you have to work hard, right, to make money, but like at the same time everybody around me was working hard, but they didn't have a lot of money. Right? So it's like what I'm confused, right? And then I love how you bring up like healthcare workers and stuff. Like, what about them? Like, they're doing very good jobs and like helping people, but like, what about them, right? So I want you to kind of go into like how your mindset around money has shifted, like before compared to what it is now.
Yeah, definitely. So for me, I grew up in a family where my dad was really into finance, and he is like, financial chief officer at a company, has his own company basically. And then my mom, who is a psychologist, who does not want anything to do with money. Like, not at all. She's like, I get to spend money and it's fun. And, she earns her own money, but at the same time, she doesn't really want too much to do with it. So it was very polar opposites in that sense when I was growing up. And what I kind of learned from my parents, I guess, on the one hand, don't look at it, it's not then it's not there or it's not a problem. It will be okay. And on the other hand, like, you need to be careful with money. You need to, I don't know, keep track of everything. You don't know when it's running out. And obviously these were unconscious patterns that my parents brought over to me, especially my dad in that sense, because, well, my mother in another sense, but my dad in the sense that, you need to work hard, as you said, and money doesn't grow on trees was something he would tell me when we wanted something, So there was this sense that whatever happened, it could all run out suddenly. And now I must also add that we lived in a very comfortable house. My parents both worked. Like, there was no shortage of anything, and there was no worry that they deliberately kind of put on us. But at the same time, there were these unconscious, things happening, and my dad chastening my mom for spending money on us on clothes that we didn't really need, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how those things stuck with us. But then at the same time, we're not even aware that they are here in our head, until we choose to observe them, to look at them, to dig into them. So that was kind of where I was coming from. At the same time, I studied business. I then moved on to a degree in finance. So there was this pressure that I should be knowing what I was doing with money. I should be relatively good with money because I had this business degree, I had my finance degree at some point. And I felt like in my personal life, that I had no idea what I was doing. So at some point, I entered into like this health coaching mindset program. It now must be like 3 years ago. And she at some point pointed out for me, like, well, you have this funky stuff going on when it comes to money and when it comes to your relationship with money. And it was quite the investment that I made into that health program. So I already noticed that there was some things going on, like something was a little bit, not feeling great, basically. So when I delved deeper into that, I discovered all those things. I discovered like the memories that really stuck with me when it came on the topic of money. And I think that's a great place to start. Like, what comes up when you think about money? Is it joy, and is it like overflow, and is it like, oh, and I get to, buy this with the money that I have, and I get to support this with the money that I have, and I get to donate here and invest in that, and all these positive feelings, basically. Or maybe it's the, I hope, I mean, it depends obviously on someone's situation, but also these feelings of like, oh, and I have to pay rent. And if I earn a lot, I have to pay a lot of taxes. And, there's this whole other perspective. Well, basically there's not enough and there's never enough. That is so important to start noticing. So for me, it really shifted. I think I started to work 2 years ago, like consciously. And then in the last year, definitely there were some big leaps, but it started in February 2022 when I joined, like I signed up for a course that was really focused on this. And I mean, I have to admit, I haven't even finished the course, and all the stuff that just happened in the first week, I think it was, like everything that was just uncovered for me. And then I continued also in other aspects, like the mindset work, and really going into like what is going on, and mostly it's observing. It's just observing, like when I make a big payment, what happens? Like, do I go into this, oh, this is so scary, and then kind of not wanting to pay it, or just kind of avoiding making a big payment, or can I like be like, oh, I'm so thankful that I have this money to pay for this thing, and I am super excited to see what's going to happen, or to experience whatever you're paying for, basically. And to feel supported. And the last thing, so that is how I think what happened like last year. And then for me, it was a very big change that I decided to stop my like quit or leave my my job, like my steady paying, relatively well move away from steady income and take a leap of faith of, okay, I want to start my own business. I want to work with people on a more personal level in finance and with money and in coaching. And so that is what I did. And that would have not been, at least not right now, my reality if I hadn't shifted and healed my money mindset. Definitely not. No.
Yeah. So, okay, I have so many questions. I love all of this. So, I love this because, like, my work is like with the subconscious and nervous system and like the trauma, right? And like, people don't understand that there's quote unquote money trauma. Like, trauma is like a big word, but it's not even like trauma. It's just like, what are you conditioned to believe? And you talked about like, how are you reacting when you make a payment, right? Like, I did, like, and it's all unconscious, right? So, like, for a long time, I didn't realize how activated my system got around money, like hot and sweaty and like nervous and freaking out. Like, I wasn't aware of it, right? So like, you're bringing that up, which is awesome, and I love that. And then you talked about how like your mom was like, oh, I don't really need to look at it, it's fine, it's there, whatever. And then your dad's like, we need to make sure we pay attention and track everything, right? So like, how do you find like the happy medium from those two opposite sides?
I like to see it as that now with the mindset and the wealth, I'm combining them. So it's exactly as you said, like finding that happy medium of, okay, it's good to get clear on what you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about bypassing any of it. It's not about thinking like, oh, it will be okay, kind of like throwing it over the fence and hoping it will land on its feet or whatever. I don't know why I use a cat analogy. So it's not about any of it like avoiding it. It is essentially about to stop avoiding it, to stop running from those feelings that you just mentioned of like nervousness and maybe a little bit anxiety around money, and to really look at your money. And one of the tools basically that I also teach my clients is going on a money date. Because essentially then you can't avoid looking at your money. And at the same time, there are a lot of things that you can incorporate into your money date to make it more fun, but also to really help you kind of deal with the feelings that might come up with looking at your money. So that is more the mindset stuff. So basically my mom being a psychologist, what she does, because it involves, for example, making a money gratitude list. Sitting yourself down and just writing out like, what am I grateful for that money allowed me to buy or get or have, or what flowed in this month or something like that, to really take a moment to be really grateful for all of it. Even be grateful for the tax that you paid, because the higher amount, yes, but the more you earned. So there's like a level where we can always find the gratitude in that stuff. But then there's also incorporating the fun side. Like, what do I want to buy? What do I want to spend my money on? And what gives me that sense of joy? Like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. Or I'm, maybe it's a manicure, but maybe it's a vacation. Like, it can be anything, but finding that joy and I'm really holding that joyful feeling instead of holding the dread that might have come with money before. And I like to look at it like doing the practical stuff with the positive like mindset stuff, because then it can be this more fun and also more motivating to start working on this. Because it is true that in the end, like you notice and probably see this with your clients, that you can't just not want to look at it, want to deal with it, and hope it's going to turn out fine. Like, that is not how it works. You have to do the work around it and with it, and move through the doubts and the fears and the limiting beliefs that surround that topic that you want to work on, or that you want to get better at, I might say. Like, if you want more wealth, well, guess what? You got to work on your wealth.
It's not just going to come in, right? Like, you have to look at it. Yeah.
When you've done the work, it might.
Yeah, when you've done the work, exactly, right? And I feel like it sometimes money, mindset, wealth, whatever, I feel like it feels like a little woo-woo to people, like, oh, I have to have a date with my money, and if I'm just nicer to my money and if I change my mindset, like, it'll come in, but like, it does.
so
Right?
True.
It just does. It just does. But so okay, so let's talk about like the money dates. Like how
Mhm.
often would you tell somebody to do that? And like when feelings of like anxiety or like stress around money come up, what would you advise them to do?
All right. So the frequency is very individual, basically. But in general, I would say once a month is enough. Especially if you're in employment and you have your salary like come in once a month. I would maybe do it around that time because then, there's an influx of cash and you feel automatically maybe a little better about your money because you just received money. And while you do it right before you get paid, it might feel very like extra stressful to look at it at that time. But it's good to have also a plan for the month ahead, right? So that's a perfect opportunity. So the frequency around a month. But if someone is very like no idea what is going on in their financial reality, I would definitely say like once every 2 weeks or once a week even, to really get it into the habit and to kind of feel like what feels good for me, because that is also very individual. What someone wants to do on their money date, how they want to go about it. Like for me, it is grabbing a really big mug of tea, getting a blanket, like maybe lighting a candle, putting on some music that like gets my vibe higher. And the second thing you mentioned, what was it again?
If like stress comes up around money, how would you like advise them to work through that? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, thanks. Uh, like a total brain fart. So that is very important, and that's the mindset stuff, right? So when you feel like you sit yourself down, you've created this safe container for like 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be longer than that, especially in the beginning, and you feel just like this resistance, this anxiety, and you feel like I don't want to do this. Like, don't get me wrong, I still have those moments where I'm like, no. But the thing is, and what really works for me, don't start with like a spreadsheet. Don't start with your opening your bank accounts. Start with writing down your feelings. Start with a breathing exercise or even a money meditation. There are tons of them online. And just like start with something else. Don't start with like the big thing that you kind of are resisting and basically staring up at like, oh no. Start with something that feels more comfortable, whether that is doing a meditation or doing a journaling or just listening to a song that you really love, but that is high vibe. And that is very important if you're choosing to listen to a song. And there are a couple of songs that can really help you get into more the vibes of, okay, let's do this. And then there are songs that will bring you down even more. So I wouldn't recommend listening to those songs. But yeah, that are some of the tools that you can use when you feel like the worry coming up.
So, okay, can you explain? I know, but I want you to explain why it is important to be quote unquote high vibe when you're doing this. Like, not to like, you just got off of work and you're stressed the fuck out and you're like, I gotta look at my money, right? And you're like, I'm making an experience. Like, I have this big mug of tea and I put a candle and some music. So, can you explain why that is important when looking at your money?
Yes, definitely. So everything we do is giving out this vibe, this frequency, basically, and you attract basically with your energy. And I know what you just mentioned, like a lot of people find that woo and find that a little bit like, well, okay, everything I think has an energy or a vibe, but it's true.
Mhm.
And we are creating every moment of every day, basically. So when we are in that space of doing a money date and we are stressed, we are tired, we just want to lay down and hide from the world, basically, we are not in the right mindset to really change our wealth and change our financial reality, basically. Because when we want to change something, we have to really feel all those feelings of what it would be like when it is changed. If you go about something, also with working out, for example, if you go about your workout like half-assed because you're actually very tired and you don't want to be there, you don't want to work out, you feel basically frustrated with being in that place, and then you do it anyway, like chances are you won't feel great after. You're just like well, that was a half-ass workout, you're not really proud of how that turned out. And it doesn't really probably doesn't like get the result that you want in the end. Maybe you don't go to the gym for the rest of the month because you're like, no, that was horrible. And it's the same with your money date. It's if you do it in this, like, if it generates for you this like good feelings, this higher vibe, and this like excitement basically of, well, I have this now, but I am going for that, this is what I want, and this is where I'm starting, then you are really creating this momentum basically. So the next time after your money date, you'll feel good because you're in this high vibe, and like I got it done. It may not have been easy, it wasn't always fun, but I got it done, and next month I'm doing it again. And it's easier to do it again if you feel good about it than if you don't.
Yeah, I love, because you like brought up like your relationship with money, and I've heard other people say like how, like, if you were in a relationship with somebody that was like the relationship with money, would that person want to be in a relationship with you, right? So like how you're treating money, like would money want to be in a relationship with you? So can you like elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, 100%. I like to also use the analogy of don't treat your money as the uninvited guest to your party. Treat it as the bestie that you really want there. Don't avoid her. Don't not try to like talk to her and kind of hope that she leaves very, very, very soon. No, just like have her there, talk to her, dance with her, laugh with her, whatever. Like treat her as your bestie. And I think there it also gets to be fun, and it also gets to maybe move away from, for some people, to really call it a relationship, but that is what it is. And I think we have a lot more relationships to things and such as money than we think we do. But the relationship with money, it can be like super loving and supportive, and like honoring both of you honoring the relationship. Or it can be, as you said, like money wouldn't want a relationship with you because you're treating it like shit.
Right, yes.
You don't want to deal with it. You try to avoid it at all costs. You don't want to look at it. And you basically think that money only comes in when you work for it. Well, that is not nice. That is not something that money will feel appreciated or loved or wants to come around you more often, And I think sometimes it can make it easier for people if we like talk about it as a relationship, and for other people it will sound even further away for them. So it is, I mean, with everything, I think about this stuff is that pick your terms, like pick the things that work for you. If having a relationship with money sounds very like, I don't know, impossible to you, don't start there, start somewhere else. Like start well, for example, doing more of the practical stuff, like feeling into the feelings of gratitude because money got you something, or you got to buy something because of money, because you have money, or you were able to spend it. But yeah, for me, like the relationship with money, it's also about healing that relationship, the work that I do. So yeah.
Okay, so for us, we have a little bit more I want to say freedom / flexibility with our money because we work with ourselves, right? So like we can increase it or decrease it basically whenever we want. So if somebody's listening to this and they're like, okay, cool, but like I have a job and I have a set amount that I make each week, every month, like what would you tell them? Like how would you help them with their wealth mindset?
I love this question. And I had that question when I was employed. Well, I think it was not even a year ago that I was still there. So the thing is, stop wanting control over the way that money comes in. Stop stop letting it only come in through your work. Stop expecting money to only come in if you work for it. That the only source of your money, were to be your job. It's not true, and it doesn't have to be true for you. But the thing is, you have to decide that is not the case for you. You have to decide that there are other infinite ways that money can flow into your life, and it is happening all the time for you. And if you really start to believe that, and I get it, that's for some people, like it's it's not that easy to kind of switch,
Yeah.
you know, it's not
Mhm.
that easy. Like, okay, yeah, I believe that it's true work for all my life. And now I suddenly see it as
Yeah,
something.
right.
But the thing that you can really do with this, and that's basically a start, is willing to see it differently.
Mhm.
Can you acknowledge every time that money comes your way without being it through your job? Really acknowledge it and thank it. Like, be like, whoa, it came in, even if it's a few euros that or sorry, dollars that you found on the street. You know, it can be anything. Or maybe someone had, I don't know, buying you something, or money coming in through a gift. It doesn't matter. Money has infinite ways of coming in. And the thing is, be open to it and notice when it does, if this feels very far off for you.
Yeah. Okay,
Because, yeah.
go ahead. Yeah, so I love this because this just happened to me like a few months ago. It's like our ego wants it to come in a certain way, right?
Hmm.
So like that was what was happening for me. I was like, I want this money and da 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 da, and it wasn't coming in the way that I wanted. So I was like, I'm not getting it. But then
Hmm.
the universe, whatever, was like, but I'm handing it to you over here, right? But I was over here like, well, no, but that's not how I want it to come in. And then the universe is like, okay, but what does the fuck does it matter? Like, I'm still giving it to you, right? Like, it's so what?
Yes, exactly that. It is so funny how we just try to kind of ignore it. We ignore it happening right in front of us because we're not open to the idea that it's possible. And
Mm-hmm.
as you said, it's also ego, right? I had the exact same thing with like I mean, yeah, you mentioned like with business, you can really increase it or decrease it. So in the beginning, I was really focused on, okay, I really want to make money this month through my business. I'd been in business for like 2 months, and the previous month I had money coming in. Like I've had money coming in for the past months. And the only like April is the month that it came in through my business. But the other months, it has come in other ways, which is exactly the point, right? Yeah. And so I was very focused on like, okay, I really wanted to come in through my business. I really want to work with more clients. I want to, receive money through my business. And then suddenly I noticed that I was like holding on very tightly to the control of knowing how it's going to come in. And then I like journaled on it and I was like, I want to release this. You know, it's not my responsibility to know how the money is coming in, just trusting that it will come. So I was visiting a friend in Dublin and I walked to a coffee shop and I was just like, oh, let me just check my account, like double check that my active account had enough funds for a freaking coffee. And I was like, I'm going to just check it. And then suddenly I had like a couple hundred euros come in through my like previous employee from 6 months before with no explanation, nothing like being clear of why I was paid that money, nothing. And I didn't do any work for it. And it was just there. And I was like, well, this was like an hour after I shifted this. It can move so quickly if we just open ourselves up to the idea of money coming in through all the ways instead of only one way. Why would you limit the flow of money?
Okay, so I love this. I'm so glad you brought this up because I feel like new business owners need to hear this
Mhm.
because I was very hard on myself because in the beginning there wasn't money coming in through my business, right? And so like there it is, the ego again, like what are you doing? You can't do this, blah blah blah. But again, there was money coming in other ways. Like what does it matter, right? But I feel like business owners need to hear like this. Like it is okay if money is not coming in through your business yet, right?
Mhm.
Right? So can you speak on that because I love this.
Yes, of course. Oh yeah, 100%. It doesn't have to come through your business, especially in the beginning. You are setting this up, you are shifting, you are making room for the universe to, move money through your business. But give it a little time, have a little patience, and don't give up just because it doesn't look like it's happening. And that's the thing also with this whole money mindset and really vibing with money. It's about trusting that it will. If
Mhm.
it hasn't happened, it hasn't happened yet, and it is gonna happen. But you have to stay with it. And definitely be open to other ways that the universe is supporting you and your business. Because in the end, and especially if you're like starting, maybe it's a coaching business or online service provider, or you're doing it by yourself, your business is you. So if the universe is supporting you in other ways, that is, it's supporting your endeavor of creating this business.
Right.
And that's exactly, how I decided to look at it when I started my business like a couple months ago. I was like, and doing this work on wealth and on money, it was very clear to me that there was a lot of shifting going on. And instead of seeing it as something that was, I don't know, like, oh, I still need to shift this, I saw it as this opportunity to practice every time that the thought popped up, like, why is the money not coming in through my business? Every time it was like, you know what? I don't have to know how the money is coming in. I am here. I am doing my, my passion, my work, my purpose, and the money will come in however it comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because then also, if you really, really start to incorporate this, you're not putting pressure on people. You're not making anyone responsible for your money. You're not making anyone responsible that the money will flow into you, because it will flow whether they are involved or not.
Yeah, right, for sure. I think something that's been very helpful for me is like reminding myself I've always been supported. Like I've always had enough. I've always been supported. It's always been there, right? Especially like becoming a business owner, becoming my own boss, where like there is that very uncertainty, right? Like you're not getting that paycheck, but I'm like, anytime I didn't think I was going to have enough, there was always enough. And guess what? There still has always been enough, right? There is.
Yes.
And it's just like, I know some people are going to be like, it's not going to resonate and they aren't going to understand, but I'm just like, I wish you would. There is something to this, and if you could just like give that little shift, you'll start to see that there is always enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, I'm gonna say that you get to move into there's more than enough,
yeah,
if you're,
absolutely,
there's
yes,
always enough.
yeah. Okay, something I want to talk about is like, okay, let's talk about like quote unquote shopping addictions, right? Because to me, I'm very much like, I buy something because it feels good. Like I'm not a big spender, but I'm like, if this feels good, then I'm gonna buy it, right? So like, where's that happy medium of like, I can just spend all my money and it'll never run out, compared to like, okay, but like, are you being conscious of like, is this something I really, really desire?
Yes, I love that. I actually just did like a TikTok series on this, like changing your spending habits. So for me, if someone would have told me like a year ago, like, oh, no, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, like, oh, you're not spending money anymore because you want to please others. You're not spending anymore because you're not trying to fill a void. You're not spending anymore because you want to feel good about yourself. I would have looked so confused, like, is that what I'm doing now? What? But that's the thing, right? If we're very like, we walk into a store and we're like, we want everything. Like, I remember being in that phase where I was just, because we thought we couldn't have it. And that's the shift. When you start to really believe and trust that whatever you really want, you can have, you suddenly don't feel compelled to want anything because, well, it's something. So it's just massive change that I honestly didn't notice until like recently that happened for me, where I was like, I haven't shopped in a while. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Not that I used to shop a lot, but I used to shop regularly. And suddenly I noticed like, oh, I haven't bought anything in a while. And oh, that's interesting. And then I was kind of thinking of like, oh, is there anything that I want? And I was like, well, I can't think of anything right now. Okay, okay, that's cool. But then when I came back from traveling in Costa Rica, it was like very cold here. There was snow. So I really wanted a good winter jacket. I was like, that is what I want. So I went out and I bought this really, really good winter jacket. And instead of feeling this, kind of need to buy all the other stuff that was in the store, I was really just like, this is what I want right now. So kind of to get from the place of wanting to buy everything and like really basically a little bit frantic, but also unconscious spending, I would like to call it. Really, every time you walk into a store and maybe you see a lot of stuff that you would want, try it on, like go with it. But then before you go to checkout, take a moment to check in with yourself. Is this something that you really, really want? Or is it something that maybe your friend said it looked really good, or you feel like you should have because it's one hot fashion item or whatever? Like, I'm talking about clothes right now, but
Yeah,
this
yeah,
goes for everything.
yeah.
But like this, really just check in with yourself. Is it what I want? Like really, really want? And am I super excited with the prospect of wearing this thing or using this thing? Like, do I already feel like the joy bubbling over of having this thing? If you feel like that, buy it, and buy it with this energy of there is more than enough. There's more where that came from. I am super excited to start wearing this, to start using it. But if it's the other side, if it's the side of, well, I don't know if I really even want this, or if you're doubting, trust that if it's meant to be yours, it will, you will see it again in like a week's time if you have not stopped thinking about this one thing.
Yeah.
And you will buy it then. It's really taking the time for yourself to check in, because I mean, it can change your whole spending habit, because it's the same, in grocery stores, in other areas. Like, it's the exact same thing with just checking in with yourself. Like, is this what I want? And not to go into like, ooh, do I really need this? It's not
Yeah.
about that.
Mhm.
It's really about, do you want it?
Mhm.
Like, with your whole being.
Yeah. Yeah. Something I live by is like, if it's not a fuck yes, then it's a fuck no. Right.
Yes, I love that.
Right. Like if I like am like shopping, clothes or whatever, and I'm like, oh, like this is nice. I would like it. But if it's not like, yes, this looks fucking fantastic, I want it, right? Like if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. I think that's very helpful to like help decipher, like, okay. But something that you mentioned that I want to bring up is like, this is why mindset is so important. So before I was the coach I am now, I used to be a food and body freedom coach.
Ooh, I love
I had
that.
like, and I had like binge eating and stuff and disordered eating, blah, 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 blah. But you know how you said, like, once you tell yourself you can't have it, you want it more. That's the same thing with binge eating. Like, I would tell my clients, like, you are allowed to have whatever food that you want. And as soon as you give them that permission, they don't feel the need to overeat it. Right. And it's the same thing with spending. Like, once you give yourself that permission, like, you can have anything in this store, but do you really want it?
Oh, yes. I love that comparison. So true. It's so true. Because we feel like the inner rebel in us is like, well, now I want it more.
Yes,
Just
yes.
because I was told
Mhm.
I can't have it.
Yes, absolutely. And there is totally something to that. Like, I know when I'm told that I can't have something, I'm like, fuck you, I want it now, right? Even if I didn't want it to begin with. Like, right? So there is such like a, but like people are doing that to themselves, right? Not somebody else. They're doing it to themselves where they're like, I can't have this and I can't have that. And then it makes them want it more when it's like, okay, but you can, but do you really want it?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, oh, I love that. And it's so true when it comes to money, because, and this is not about, for example, if someone really wants this very, very expensive thing and it's outside their realm of possibilities
Yeah.
right now,
Mm-hmm.
it's not about, going into debt to buy something,
Yes.
because you can have anything. I mean, if that is worth it to you, by all means,
Yeah.
but if you want, like, if you really want something, make a plan for yourself to make that a reality for you, that you can buy that thing with like the confidence and knowing like, oh, I buy it with like the money that I have, whether it's you save for it or whatever, but know that it is always possible for you to have that thing. And so it has nothing to do with buying whatever you want, like as you mentioned, it's with intention. But if there are things that you really, really want and you feel like, I can't afford it right now, know that there is like always a possibility where you, and a reality where you can afford it. But maybe you have to have a little patience, and you have a little bit more work to do on your money mindset and your wealth.
Yep.
But then, it's this feeling of abundance that anything is possible.
Yeah, it's not falling into that mindset. Like, you see something and it is outside of your spending limit right now, right? And it's not falling into that, like, oh my God, like I can't afford that, blah, 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 right? It's like shifting the mindset to, okay, that isn't in my budget right now, but that's okay because I can get this. It is coming, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's just those little switches, because when you shift your mindset that way, then your mind is focused on the possibility of it and figuring out a solution to get it. But if you just go over here and you go, I can't afford it, your brain doesn't go into a solution way of thinking. It's just like, I can't afford it, and then that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it's the difference between having this focus on possibilities, because if we focus on possibilities, they're everywhere.
Mhm.
But if we choose to focus on lack, basically, lack will be everywhere. You know, it won't just stop with that thing. It will pop up in other areas because that's what we choose to focus on.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to mention, like, sometimes it's not always quote unquote about the money. Like, if you want a certain thing, sometimes somebody will buy it for you, right? Like, you didn't need the money to come in to get that thing, somebody bought it for you, right? So again, it's like that whole, like, be open to it can come in multiple different ways.
Yeah, I love that. And it's, yeah, so true. And it's very important. Like, it's a very important part of getting clear on what you want. You know, going into stores that you may not be in your like limit or money realm right now, but like getting clear, like, okay, you know, when I have this money, because you will,
Yeah.
what do I want to buy? You know, what do I want to have? For me, it's like a vacation home in Italy.
It's awesome.
I mean, no, is it right now a possibility? Not yet, but I
Right.
definitely see it happening in the future. And I think that's kind of the difference between people that are very like, okay, it's not for me, you know. And if you're in that mindset, like, it's not for me, can you look at people that aren't that different from you that have that thing, or that are doing that thing, you know? Can you have more examples in your life? Like, why not you? Because that's a very important question to ask yourself. You know, yeah, it is for you. If you want it, I believe that it's for you.
Yes. Okay, I loved this conversation so much. This was
Me
awesome.
too.
So can you tell people how they can find you, how they can work with you, and all of the good stuff, and if there's any last things you would like to say?
Yes, definitely. Well, first off, I love this conversation with you. I loved it. I hope the listeners do too. But so yeah, no, I am findable on Instagram at co-creation. It's not that easy spellable, but maybe I can send you the link and you can put it in the show notes. Also on TikTok. And I have these different offers ranging from a free masterclass to a private coaching of 6 months. And yeah, I am just very thankful to have been on here.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so
Loved it.
much.